Welcome to Food Certifications in 15 with PJRFSI. Find out more or receive a free quote at PJRFSI.com.
And welcome to the Food Certifications in 15 with Johnson Registrars Food Safety Incorporated. That's PJRFSI. I am Joel Verke. We do this in 15 minutes. We do it every week, and we've got Anish Pandian with GHP Consulting and Testing. Anish, welcome back to the show, my friend.
Hey, Joel. Good to see you, man. As always, I hope you're having a great day so far.
Thanks, buddy. Anish has got a phenomenal background. Anish and I have worked together for a long time in certifications and consulting and all of that. We met years ago at a trade show, I believe. But anyways, Anish, I mean, he does everything from Global Gap, BRC, SQF, FSSC, Organic, HACCP, GMP, FSMA, all that stuff he can consult to. He's one of the people I always go to when I've got questions. Very knowledgeable guy and a wonderful consultant to work with, by the way. He's helped a lot of my clients. Today, Anish, we are going to be talking, and I love when we go to basics. I love when we go back to basics, right? Because we are an industry that, aside from the military, may have more acronyms than any other industry on earth. Okay, it's acronym city. So we're going back to basics today because what is SQF and BRC, and what we're really going to get into here is what are the big differences, right? That's what we're going to get, because some of you are large manufacturers. Some of you are a QA rep for your manufacturing site's got 100, 150, 200 employees. And some of you watching have 2 or 3 or 4 employees that are doing this, right? So there are differences. They're going to have different effects in the market, right? As far as the sellability, the marketability of your certification, depending on where you are. But let's go back to the start here. What is SQF and what is BRCGS, what we commonly call BRC?
BRC, yes. That's a very good question to begin with. This is a common question that I get asked every time I get a request from a customer or someone. So SQF stands for Safe Quality Food, and BRCGS stands for Brand Recognition Compliance. So it used to be called British Retail Consortium because it was originated in the UK. Yeah. But then they wanted to make it more global, so they changed the name to Brand Recognition Compliance Standards. And SQF originated in Australia. It's basically a division of FMI. Again, I'm throwing too many acronyms out there. FMI stands for, it used to be called the Food Marketing Institute, but now it's called the Food Industry Association. It's just a division of the Food Industry Association. They're both recognized by GFSI, again, another acronym, Global Food Safety Initiative. So they meet the requirements of major retailers in the world, whether it is Wakefern or Walmart, Amazon, Whole Foods, Costco, whoever it may be. All these major retailers and major manufacturers want certain things from their vendors. And the whole purpose of these standards is to meet their requirements.
Now, when we look at the two different standards, SQF and BRCGS, within those, obviously, you have various codes or modules, whatever you want to call them. So let's take, for instance, for SQF, you've got the SQF Food Safety Code, food manufacturing, probably one of the most common, correct? Oh, yeah. The counterpart to that over at BRCGS is BRCGS for Food safety. Yeah. And then they got a packaging one. They each got a storage and distribution one. Where do the differences start? What does SQF have codes for that BRCGS doesn't, and vice versa?
Right. So as you rightly said, SQF food manufacturing is the most common code. More often than not, people opt for that because they're just not aware of the other codes that are available. So to name a few, SQF has a code for aquaculture. They have for primary production. They have for animal product manufacturing, pet manufacturing, dietary supplements, which is quite popular these days. They also have for storage and distribution, packaging materials, and so on. Whereas in BRCGS, we pretty much have the same categories, but most of them are fit into that one standard, which is for food safety. BRCGS, Global Standard for Food Safety. A lot of them are just fit into it. For example, whether it's dietary supplements or it's like animal product manufacturing, anything of that sort. In addition, they also have gluten-free certification. They have plant-based certification. They have certification for retailers. They have some for agents and brokers. For example, you're an agent and broker who is just responsible for facilitating the transaction, but you're not really seeing the product or touching the product or handling it.
That person's going to get the ethical trade and responsible sourcing, correct?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Now, so a BRCS has BRCGS Start, which is kind of a unique thing. Does SQF have something along those lines, or is that unique to BRC?
That is actually a great question. So the BRCGS Start is supposed to be a fundamental basic package for small businesses just trying to get started with the program. And SQF has something similar, which they call it SQF Fundamentals. Okay. So SQF Fundamentals is for smaller businesses, food businesses who are just trying to get started. They're not really looking for anything that's GFSI recognized. Mm-hmm. Right. So it's important to remember that SQF Fundamentals is not GFSI recognized. Only SQF for food manufacturing or SQF Food Safety Code, the main one, is the only recognized standard as far as GFSI is concerned.
Now, how about BRC Start? That is not GFSI recognized either. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Or is it?
It's not BRCGS recognized either.
GFSI, pardon me.
Sorry, GFSI recognized either. So if you're looking for a GFSI certificate, I would say go for SQF Food Safety Code, food manufacturing, or animal product manufacturing, or any of those. As far as BRC goes, just do the food safety one. But if you want a regular certificate, your customers don't really care about some of the GFSI requirements, then you could go for SQF Fundamentals or BRCGS Start.
And while we're there, and this is a good, I want to jump in here with that because you're going to have pretty clear direction from a potential customer, a retailer, major retailer, right? Regional grocer, for instance. They're going to tell you, whatever you get of these, just make sure it's one of the GFSI benchmarked codes within those standards. There's nothing ambiguous about that. It's very clear. And when it comes down to it, the vast majority of the retailers out there are going to want you to have that GFSI stamp on there. So, it is, again, these Start and these fundamentals are good to start with if the intention is to eventually move forward with the GFSI level certification. Would you agree?
Yeah, no, I definitely would agree with that. Oftentimes they go for BRCGS Food Safety or food manufacturing, because they just don't have the knowledge, that they don't know that alternatives are available. But generally speaking, GFSI, whether you realize it or not, it'll take about 2 to 3 iterations, meaning 2 to 3 years before you have a solid program in place. But after 2 to 3 years, you're just going to have a really high quality product and I would say like very reliably safe product as well after 2 to 3 years. So I generally recommend go for the GFSI. It's just a little bit of a stretch, but it's
going to get you more access to the market out there, without a doubt. Again, we're talking with Anish Pandian today, and we're just talking about basics today, kind of the differences between SQF and BRC. They're both excellent standards. Anish consults to both. We certify to both of these standards here at PJRFSI. Anish, again, with GHP Consulting and Testing. Anish, I get a lot of questions, and this is one that sometimes, even when you've been in the industry as long as we have, someone's asking you a question, and it's the simplest question. You can answer all the complicated stuff, but this one is I get all the time. How are companies graded, right? How am I going to be graded during my SQF audit or during my BRC audit? How talk about that, because I know this, but I think this is important stuff for people to know as they're getting started here.
Yeah, definitely. So one of the main differences between SQF and BRC goes is the grading system. So in SQF, you get like a numeric grading, which is like you get 95 out of 100, 96 out of 100, or like an 85 out of 100, and so on. Whereas BRC, it is alphabetical. So you get a letter grade, I should say. You would get either AA, double A, you call it, if you get 95 and above. If it's between 90 and 95, then they call it an A grade. And below that, it's B, C grade, and so on. So that's like one small difference as far as the grading goes. But this makes a lot of difference to people, whereas if you are giving a numeric grade like 97 or 98, people perceive it differently as compared to like getting an A or getting a double A, right? So this is one of the benchmarks of these GFSS standards. They're the fact that they're being graded. This could also scare some of the customers, because we
don't want that.
Yeah, you're not really looking to just pass and move on, but it's actually a forcing function to improve.
And Anish, it's important to note, guys like you and I know this, and people that are vetting suppliers know this. Things like SQF and BRC, there's a database. It's real simple. You just go on there. You can see exactly how a company did on their last audit.
Oh, yeah.
And that it is really important, though. Again, it's not scary stuff. This is stuff that thousands and thousands and thousands of companies, large and small, go through annually, and they do just fine. Most of the time, they do just fine. Real quick here, Anish, before we go, how does the audit process work?
Yeah, so generally speaking, it's pretty similar for both SQF and BRC. You're supposed to have an unannounced audit once in every 3 years. The first initial audit is supposed to be on site. BRCGS calls it blended audit, where you are blending both on site and virtual. That's a small difference in terminology. But other than that, the audit process is pretty much the same. But the only difference is SQF allows you to have unannounced audits every year if you wish to have one. So that is a kind of a frightening proposition for a lot of companies. So if it is unannounced, what's the incentive to go that route? The incentive is basically added customer confidence, consumer confidence. That's the main incentive, right? So let's say I'm buying something from Joe, and you happen to have unannounced audit every year, and you've been getting really good grades on your unannounced audits. It means that you have a system in place, and you're not just working a week or two before the audit trying to get the documents together. You're just prepared whenever we're going to show up. You're just ready to present the documents, which is like it makes a lot of difference, as customers go.
It does, yeah. So I understand what you're saying. It goes back again to the database on SQF and BRC. Somebody can see if you are in the unannounced or the unannounced audit program, and holy cow, obviously that speaks volumes to the culture of food safety that you've built, that you are ready to go through an audit, not only go through an audit, but get a great grade. Unannounced. That really says something. Anish, we got to cut it off here, buddy. Thanks for talking today. We will do this again because I want to continue this conversation on some of the differences in SQF and BRC, and we will have a podcast on that coming up soon. Some of the more we'll dive in a little deeper next time, Anish, and kind of talk about some of the technical differences between SQF and BRC, and which type of companies should go for what standard. I think a very important differentiation. So let's do a part 2. Are you down?
I'm down. Let's do that.
All right. We'll do a part 2. This is Food Certifications in 15. I'm Joel Verke, PJRFSI. Go to PJRFSI.com. Check us out. Find Anish at GHP Consulting and Testing. GHP Consulting and Testing. Phenomenal consultants. Helped a lot of my clients. Can help you too.